And now, math with Mr. Brady. Today we're going to be talking about metric mass. Now our target today is I can use kilograms and grams to measure mass. Now let's see if you remember what mass means. Mass is how heavy something is or the weight of something. So we can use a scale. If you have a scale in your bathroom that you step on to measure how heavy you are, or in a kitchen, sometimes you use a scale to measure different things out for cooking. And when we do metric mass, we're using kilograms and grams. And if you remember from our metric length, kilometers, that was 1,000 meters to equal 1 kilometer. Now I wonder how many grams it takes to make 1 kilogram. So we're going to use that knowledge in our lesson today. So one way, since we don't have a scale, I don't have a scale here and you may not have a scale at home, is a gram is about the size or the weight of a paper clip. So a gram is about the weight of a paper clip. And a kilogram is about the weight of a can of beans. So a gram and a kilogram. And we use these different kilograms and grams to measure different things. If you were to weigh yourself, you probably wouldn't use grams because that would be a ton of grams. You'd probably use kilograms. But if you are to measure the mass or the weight of a pencil, you'd probably use grams. It's a little bit smaller. So here we have someone who's measuring a bunch of grapes. And they put it on a scale to see how many kilograms this bunch of grapes weigh. So if you look right here, 0 to 1 kilogram. The arrow is pointing at 1 kilogram. So we've got to make sure we see a scale. We're looking at that arrow right there. And we see that says 1 kilogram. Now, 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. Just like we did kilometers and meters, 1,000 meters equaled 1 kilometer. And if we look right here, 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, that line helps us, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000 grams, or 1 kilogram. Now Luis here, he's using his scale to measure the mass of items that are a bit lighter. So he's using this scale to measure mass that's 1 kilogram or less. So it's smaller, not smaller, it's less heavy than this can of beans, which is about 1 kilogram. So each of these small markings stands for 10 grams. So if we look at the scale, it is pointing at, go ahead and shout out, 500 grams. This pencil case has a mass, or its weight is 500 grams. So we're going to look at some scales really quick to think about what the difference is between grams and kilograms. So here we have a scale to measure in kilograms. Now you wouldn't be able to stand on this scale because you definitely weigh more than 4 kilograms or 4 cans of beans. But let's say we're measuring something that's less than 4 cans of beans, but more than a pencil case. So here we have our 0 marker, and then it goes 1, 2, 3, and then it makes a full circle, that's 4 kilograms. If I were to mark, let's say I put a mark right here. we have, already know we have 1 kilogram, but what are these markings in between? Now remember, 1,000 grams is equal to 1 kilogram, so we can skip count by hundreds. So 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000, or 1 kilogram. And then we can start again. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So we have 1 kilogram and 500, which if you remember our fractions, that would be another half kilogram, but 1 kilogram and 500 grams. Now let's look at this scale, which measures in grams. So this would be for items that weigh less or has a smaller mass than this can of beans. And let's say I wanted to know how much this right here is. So I want to know, if their arrow is pointing to that, how heavy, or what is the mass of whatever is put up here that points, has the arrow pointing to this. So let's see. If we were to count, we would go let's see what you think all these markings are. Now right here it says 250. So let's try counting by hundreds. 0, 100, 200. Oh, that won't work because it's got to be 250 right here. Let's count by 50s. 50, 100, 150, 200, 250. So we know that's correct. So there's 250, 300, 350, and how many grams is that? Go ahead and yell it out. 400 grams. Now, not kilograms, grams means smaller than a gram. 400 grams. And if you want to count all these small ones, you can. It goes 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So you could count that way, but that might take a little longer. So it's easier if we count by 50s. 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, and so on. So let's do one together, looking at these carrots and this pumpkin. So it says, what is the mass of the pumpkin? Now it gives us the mass of the carrots, which is 600 grams. And let's check. We can look up here just to make sure. We know it's 0. We know it's more than 250. We know it's more than 500. Remember, we're counting by 50s. 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, 500 grams, 550, and 600. So we know that's right. The carrots have a mass of 600 grams, which is 1, 2 after the 500. So let's see, what is the mass? See if you can read it. I'm going to give you a couple seconds to see if you can read how much does the pumpkin weigh in grams. So see if you can measure that out. 50, 100, 150, 200, 250. Let's see if we got it right. So we know it's definitely more than the carrots, which were at 600 right here. So we can either count up from 600 and go 650, 700, 750, or if you'd like to, you can just start right here. We know it's more than 750, and we're skip counting by 50s, which is the same thing as skip counting by 5s, just adding that little 0 there. So 750, 800, 850. So this pumpkin weighs 850 grams, which it must be a pretty small pumpkin if it's less than this can of beans, it must be a very, very small pumpkin. So now we're going to find the mass of this watermelon, which is definitely more than a can of beans, definitely more than a kilogram. And here we have our kilogram scale. So we're using this scale to measure the mass of 4 kilograms or less. So it can't go over 4 kilograms. And let's see what the marking is. So you have 0, 1 kilogram, and 2 kilograms. And if it went all the way around, it'd be 3, 4 kilograms if the arrow was pointing back straight up. So that watermelon weighs 2 kilograms. Now this cabbage has a mass of 1 kilogram and 500 grams. And we want to find the mass of this bunch of apples. So if we look here, we have 0 to 1 kilogram. And if we can count either by hundreds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 500. Or if you look, this is a little bit bigger than these other small ones. This red one right here that's pointing at is a bit bigger and it's red compared to these little ones. So we can do 0, 500, 1,000 or 1, and then another 500. So 1 kilogram and 500 grams. So let's look at this bunch of apples. We know it's 0, it's more than 1. It's definitely more than 2. And let's count by, we're going to skip count by hundreds. 1, 2, 300 grams. So this bunch of apples equals 2 kilograms and 300 grams. So now we're going to do a couple on our own. So first things first, we got to see if our scale is measuring in grams or kilograms. So let's go ahead. If you have a piece of paper, you can write it down, or you can just yell it out on the screen or think about it in your brain. We're going to measure these apples. So let's look. Is it in kilograms or grams? Now it's a little tricky because right here it says kilograms, but if you look, when it goes all the way around, it's only reaching 1 kilogram, meaning that all of these are in grams. Now it's a little bit confusing, but we can look to this one to see 250 grams, 500 grams, 750 grams, and then 1,000 grams or 1 kilogram. So let's go ahead and measure. You can either skip count by 50s, 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, or you can count all these little ones, which would be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And as you see, that takes a long time, and even I made a little mistake on that. Another strategy is you can look to where the next biggest unit is. So here it's 500. It's more than 500 grams, but less than 750 grams. So we can start at 500 and count from 50 up until we hit where this arrow is pointing. So we have 50, 550, and shout out, yeah, 600. And now let's look at this bunch of, not sure what type of leafy vegetable that is. And let's look, this one's measuring in kilograms, but it's a little bit tricky because if we look, here's 1 kilogram. So it's actually less than 1 kilogram. So we're going to see how many, I guess would be grams in this case, because let's look. It's definitely less than 1 kilogram, but this one's a little bit tricky, I think. But we know that there's 1,000 grams in 1 kilogram. So we know we can count by hundreds. We can go 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, and then if we went 900, 1,000 or 1 kilogram. So this would equal 800 grams. So that was a little tricky because the scale didn't have grams listed, but we know it's less than 1 kilogram. If it's less than 1 kilogram, it has to be in grams. So we count by 100 to get up to 1 kilogram. That was part one of metric mass. So do a quick little stretch break and wiggle it all out, and click on part two, where we'll cover converting kilograms to grams and grams back to kilograms.